All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our executive symposium brought to you by Active Choices, Inc. and the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative. We're going to wait a moment for those who registered to be able to join our live Zoom room today. But whether you are tuning in live or watching the recording, we are very grateful that you're sharing this space with us today and joining us for this really inspiring conversation. My name is Jenny Wiley. I'm the Director of Programming at Active Choices, Inc. I'm thrilled to be moderating this panel discussion today. It's been fun to hear about the relationship and partnerships that our panelists have shared throughout the years. So I hope that we can inspire you as you listen in and hear more about their experiences together. So our recording today is going to be made available to everyone who registered. So we invite you to really get present, close down the tabs, turn off the phone, and consider setting an intention for the time that you're going to be sharing this space with us today. Feel free to use the chat box if you are here in Zoom with us to say hello. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. And we also have the Q&A available as we move through our discussion here today. If you have anything that you'd like to add to the conversation or you'd like us to explore with our panelists. So a quick sidebar about Active Choices, Inc. At Active Choices, Inc., we hold that leaders have the power to co-create a vibrant, productive, and authentically positive company culture where each person can grow and thrive and create bottom line impact. And we do this through training and teaching the IEP methodology, which is ACI's proprietary framework. We focus on your intentions, energy, and presence that you show up with in your role. And this helps leaders and companies balance performance with self-care and impact. So the intention for this space here today is to create a space for all of us to come together. We are growth-minded leaders. We're going to be sharing insights, learning best practices from each other, all so that we can be supporting authentically positive leadership and workplace culture. So we are thrilled to have our panelists here today, Ivan, Mariana, to be able to share your experiences with us. So let's go ahead and do some quick introductions. Thanks again to our panelists who are joining us today, Mariana and Ivan Polic, the co-founders of Systemic Approach Institute and Jumpstart Your Exit. They're investors, trainers, advisors, such a beautiful, well-rounded couple and partners. So I'd love for you to say hello to everyone.
Hello, hello. Pleasure to be here. It's been a long time coming. I envisioned a moment like this, and here we are.
Amazing. We've manifested it. Yes, thanks, Ivan. And Mariana, thank you also for joining us.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Very vibrant and energetic and lively group that it's going to unfold just this lovely and energetic discussion.
Yes, I hope everyone can feel our energy coming through this today. I agree. And we have Anese, Cavanaugh, CEO of Active Choices, Inc. and founder of the Positive Energy Workplace Initiative. She's also the author of Contagious Culture and Contagious You. And we're all gathered here today because of the work that you've done, Anese. So thanks for joining us.
well, thank you for having me. And thank you, Ivan and Mariana, for joining us. I feel like we set an energetic intention probably about 12 years ago without even knowing exactly what was going to unfold over the next 12 years. So it's really, it's such a pleasure and such a gift to be able to sit here and have this conversation with you now. So thank you.
Yeah, we get to have it and use it and be in it.
Yeah.
So agreed. Anese, let's set the stage a little bit more and start with you. Tell us a little bit more about the IEP method, kind of in a nutshell, why it's important, the impact that you've seen as the founder of the work.
All right. So IEP stands for Intentional Energetic Presence, and it is all about how we bring ourselves to the table. It's about being intentional about the energy and our presence and how we're showing up, not only for each other, but really for ourselves first. What we found with this work is that we're always creating impact. We're always creating impact. It's either positive or negative or just kind of beige. And we're always creating an experience. And so whether that's in a company, whether that's for our leadership, whether that's on our culture, as we're, in our meetings with our kids, doing the dishes, there is an experience that we're creating. And what we found in building this work over the last 23 years is that the more intentional we are about our energetic presence and the energy we're bringing to each other and to ourselves, the more intentional we can be about the experience we create, and the more likely we are to have our intended outcomes. If you look at the IEP methodology, I won't go all the way into it, but there's, 70 different pathways and frameworks to really support people in looking at their, how they build their intentions, how they really take care of their energy, how they take care of their presence, so that they're creating the impact that they want to create. And we've been developing this for a long time. And to me, it got started because I noticed doing leadership development and culture work many, many years ago, that no matter how phenomenal a leader was or a executive team was at their vision and their strategy and their skills and all these great things, there was a missing piece. And 9 times out of 10, that missing piece came down to them being really clear about their intentions, their energy, and their presence, and how they were showing up. So here we are.
Beautiful. Yeah. And as a coach, I've experienced a lot of different frameworks. And one of the things that I love the most about the IEP method is that it is so accessible. It's not the sort of thing that you have to go do tons and tons of training to understand. And yet the lessons are lifelong. And the way that we embody it is an everlasting journey. So thank you for bringing it to us.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's been really helpful for me. Let's be really honest. Like we build what we need, right? So this
Absolutely.
has been one of those things that, the other thing I really appreciate about the work is that it continues to evolve and build. And so it's never done. It's never done. It's not like you learn it once and go, oh, okay, good, I got it. It's a continuous evolution of learning more about ourselves and how we show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Mariana, let's start with you from a high level view. How has the IEP method impacted you personally, professionally? Just kind of what's your synopsis of that?
Well, in our business, kind of like a previous life in the company that we owned, one of the part of the mission that we embarked on was to as many programs in self-development and leadership courses and anything that we took ourselves personally, wanting to be better leaders and better parents and just better members of society, we made sure that we brought it back to our employees and shared it with them and impacted their lives. And one of and we went through many of them, and it was a lot about the mind, and how do you train your mind, and and be aware of your emotions and everything. But the way it really did make a difference is being aware of your presence and the energy that you are taking with you, and how do you show up, and how do people respond to you. And that was one of the biggest aha moments, if you will. We read your books, and it was in that moment, we're like, well, wait, this is what we need, and it's not just about how you show up, because a lot of times you are unaware of your energy. You're in your head, and if you're a naturally happy person, you're going to show up happy, but sometimes you're kind of down because you're thinking about something gloomy, and then you show up gloomy, and before you know it, everybody's affected by it. And so that became apparent also, because there were people in the company that were kind of, on the higher level leadership that would intentionally show up with the energy that was kind of inducing fear, in employees. And you can see that and you can feel that. And I'm like, why is that bothering me? And then, after reading your books and then attending your programs and everything, I then realized you can intentionally be really present with the good intention, or you can intentionally also be present with some kind of I don't want to say like reasons that are not savory, if you will. So that was very important, at work, and then also obviously at home, because everything is cross-contextual, and just that awareness was a game changing for us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's really inspiring to hear how that pay it forward energy has been a part of your journey and the way that you impact your companies. And yeah, energy can be manipulated, so to speak. And so checking in with those intentions is such a crucial part of it. It's really interesting that you were able to see that even more as you were moving through the frameworks that Anese has offered. Ivan, how about for you? What kind of impact has the IEP method made from your point of view? Oh, we're still on mute there.
being a chronic achiever and a driver and a pusher, and I have a professional soccer career, and getting into business and leading a business and leading a company, leading a team, carrying it all. There's a lot going on. So in that a lot going on, there are, incredible amount of things you could focus on at any one moment. And when you're focusing on those different things, maybe your energetic impact or your presence may not be the priority at that moment, and you are surrounded by a team that is picking up cues that you're not really intentionally creating. They're picking up things that you are kind of unconsciously sharing in the room. And that was a huge revelation for me. When you have a lot of pressure leading a business, pressure from the outside conditions and things you cannot control, and all those things that we deal with when we run companies, having that pause before each interaction to consider how you're gonna show up, and what kind of presence and what kind of energy, and what would be the strategic, most intentional way that you can show up in this room with these people for this purpose. What would be, in business we get strategic a lot. But we don't get strategic about this, and it's a huge missing piece. And this is the piece of Anese's genius, because she really created something foundational that is at the intersection of your goals and vision and your energy and presence. And what happens is you cannot create your vision willy-nilly and just wanting to will it into existence and thinking really hard about it. You must you kind of need to enter into kind of the seeding energy of your vision. You need to enter it, and you need to feel it, and you need to actually inspire your environment, inspire your team, inspire whoever you're in contact with, inspire your customer, inspire the investor, the board, whoever it is. If you are going to be more persuasive, if you're going to be more influential, if you're going to be the person that is actually going to create the vision that you set out on, this is a foundational step. You cannot go home without it. You cannot go anywhere without it. So being strategic about this is really a game changer. And, thank you, Anese, for having the vision for this. This could be talked about as a soft topic. This is like, yeah, woo-woo, what are you talking about? Like, what? We don't need that, man. We need customers. Come on, man. What are you doing? This is very short-sighted, and I'm speaking from experience when I say that this is the game changer. This is the missing piece for you going faster.
Yeah, beautifully said, Ivan. And I can feel your passion and enthusiasm around this coming through. So I hope everybody else can feel this too. I'm hearing a lot of bringing more awareness and also accountability for the energy that you are bringing into your life and bringing into the way that you lead others and the way that you accomplish your vision. So well put. I love that. Anese, anything you want to share, a reflection from what Mariana and Ivan have shared here?
Yes, there's just so much. There's just so, of course, Jenny, you know me so well. She's like, she knows I'm like bursting. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much gold that was just shared here. It's one, the contagious nature of energy. It's contagious. So you walk into a room, if you're not being intentional and you're not aware of how you're actually showing up, that leaks and that ripples out and people catch it. And there's a rule in this work, which is that the lowest vibration in the room will win unless someone is really good at holding their energetic state. And we've all seen that happen. You walk into a meeting and you're feeling really, really great. And there's that one or two people in the room that the leaders that are, their energy is really low, or they're bringing in a lot of ugh. Typically speaking, the lowest vibration will get matched. The room will start to come down. People walk out of that meeting, they're frustrated, it wasn't productive, et cetera, et cetera. So when you start to get this idea of like, actually, I am accountable for my energy. I'm accountable for how I'm showing up. I'm actually accountable for being really clear about my intention before I walk into a room. When you get that and you know how to do it authentically, so it's not fake or spiritual bypassing or even using energy as a bat, which is a whole nother conversation. But when you know how to do that authentically, you naturally then will hold your state and you can start to shift the room. So I just, I think like one of the things that always excites me about this is that, Ivan, to your point, I've been in those rooms, by the way. Oh, there's woo-woo stuff. You must be from California. Like, I am from California. Let's be clear. And I've been in those rooms where that has been said, but then you start to see people get in touch with the impact of how they're showing up and what's actually happening around them. And there's a way that we think about it, which is an ounce of proactiveness, just taking that moment to reboot, taking that moment to do like the 5-step framework that we use before you go into a room. An ounce of proactiveness is worth, 50 pounds of cleaning stuff up later. It's literally, because it does ripple out. And then people don't realize the cost of walking into a room unintentional and having energy that sinks the room. They don't realize the ripple effects of now their people leave, their energy is down, they're not focusing on the right things, they gossip about it, they go home, they're upset. I think the latest stat I heard was that we generally spend about 2.5 hours a day on drama and focusing on the wrong things. I actually think that that's pretty low. When we talk to companies, they think it's actually higher. But anyway, so I could go on and on, but beautiful nuggets. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And these really are kind of the stepping stones for this higher performance, higher consciousness type of leadership that we believe is going to be revolutionary in creating the workplaces of the future. So it's really inspiring to hear how Ivan and Mariana have been integrating this in the way that they are leading. And you both have a really interesting perspective too, as business leaders, but then also helping businesses to be able to become more aware of these types of things. So let's start to lay the foundation for our conversation around culture. And go for it. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and you have the experience of exiting and going through that. So you have the experience of actually exiting a company. And just one little sidebar before we jump into culture, Ivan, to your point about, vision and intention, a vision is just really the biggest kind of intention. So if a company is clear about their vision, I love what you just said, such a beautiful soundbite. You can't make your vision happen if you're not intentional about the way that you're showing up. You can't do that. And if you really look at intention is at the core of all this. When a company sets a vision, when the leadership team sets a vision, that is the biggest form of an intention. And if you're really grounded in that, and you're being responsible for your energy and your presence doing it, then it's going to happen. So anyway, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Jump
I love it.
Everybody, very quickly. I'm not pointing fingers here. I'm not saying, I woke up and I was amazing. I'm a recovering pusher and a forcer and making things happen in my earlier parts of my journey. My goodness, when a human gets overloaded, but is committed still, overloaded and committed turns into incredible forcing energy. And I tell you what, I would just years of pain. I'm just telling you authentically and truthfully, years of pain that produced for me a lack of results and dumbfoundedness on how this obvious thing cannot come into fruition. And I was just missing this whole piece because I was just taking on too many things. And this is another part of this process, which is beautiful. And you're able to prioritize and you're able to get better results and you feel better on top of it, doing it. And the people around you feel better about you doing it. My goodness, hello, Anese, I don't know. Thank you.
Well, here's the thing. We all know here that frameworks and ideas and principles and tools are only as good as the people who actually apply them and put them to use. So from the bottom of my heart, truly, bottom of my heart, thank you so much to both of you for applying as you have. Yeah. Okay. Jenny,
Well,
back to you. Yes.
let's help those who are watching here, because we may not know what we don't know. And
Yeah.
so, Ivan, let's go back into, if that's okay, what you were sharing around kind of that before and after. You know, you were sharing a little bit more around, you know, the not results that you were wanting. You were sharing a little bit more about, it sounds like a lot of pressure that you were putting on yourself. I imagine that showed up in the way that you were leading your company and the people you were working with. So maybe a little bit of that before and after, to help those who are watching kind of understand maybe pain points that they don't even realize could be different now. So yeah, I would love to hear you expand on that.
Yeah, I think that Mariana can witness. Mariana
Please,
can
feel free to
years of pain. I mean, um, we acquired and inherited, if you would, a culture that was centralized in its decision making, meaning that the widespread team was actually encouraged not to decide anything. In a culture that was very that kind of depressed and hopeless, if you would. Lots of kind of, you know, you do this and you push buttons here and you do you know, and you kind of rough. And then we came up with a lot of enthusiasm, and we were thinking if we did something and we pushed it and we changed it and whatever, and we encountered incredible resistance in the culture itself. Like they were committed to preserve the really depressing space.
Yeah.
And that was incredibly frustrating and difficult. And we were kind of the change makers, but without enough skills. So we would then
Don't say that.
push as much as we could until we got so depleted that we would have to, we would go for like 6 months hard. And the gap that we were encountering was epic. It was really, really steep. And the learning curve was a lot. And then I'd have to pull back, like literally recover for 3 months. And that was probably kind of my own inner knowing that I was gonna either have a heart attack or it was gonna not end well. And so I'd love Mariana, to share from, witnessing me first at home before she joined. She joined the kind of in the second stages of she was the difference maker, huge support for me, because at first I was alone in this, and then she joined in as a chief cultural officer, and a huge help. And so, but I'd love for you, Mariana, to share both, receiving me back home and witnessing me not sleeping, and then also how was it when you joined?
Yes, thank you. When you don't feel like going to your own company, it's a problem, like when you feel like there's so much going on and the return is diminished based, comparing to how much you put into your company, it's a problem. Some things need to change. And, we were, Ivan, when he acquired it, it just so happened that it was on the precipice of the huge, economic crisis, in 2008 and everything. And that added, and as he says, I realized I don't want to own this business, and, that in and of itself brings, so there's an internal pressure and then there's an external pressure. And you have to be extremely strong and durable and stubborn in order to continue with that, and and kind of tell yourself that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So that's, when you witness that as a spouse, and you try to make it easier somehow, but you don't know, am I supposed to say something, am I not supposed to say something, do I hug him when he wakes up at night, what do I do? It was, navigating from my end, kind of, trying to meet him where he's at and trying to keep a lighthearted and, seeing how I can help. But there's only so much you can do, because a lot of times people, and especially I would say guys, don't really want to share, because they're not naturally wired to share stuff like we women are. But also they don't want to induce uncertainty in their partner, because if you only knew what I was thinking, if you only knew what it was going on, and I think that's in a way he was trying to protect the family from that as well. And so when it just so happened that I was replacing a worker, she kind of took a leave of absence for a few months, and then I came in to help a little bit, and then that kind of brought in a little bit of different energy into it, and it felt he wasn't lonely, as he said. And he was like, what, why don't you just come on full time and let's see how we can make this happen, because I need more people to help on this mission towards transforming the company. And that's how I joined, and I felt like there was immediate relief and in both of us, because he knew that he wasn't lonely anymore, and then I also felt like I knew and I understood better what was going on, and I was able to help better. And then also there was a certain feel within the company and the people, because they now knew that there is one more person joining in, and then one more, and then one more, and then the critical mass was soon kind of established, and we were able to kind of push forward towards the transformation of the culture.
Yeah, those building blocks are really evident of small shifts, even in yourself, in the way that you were able to open up your perspective to what Ivan was experiencing, as you were able to lean in closer to what was actually happening and what those realities were. Anese, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, this experience that Ivan and Mariana have had with this.
Yeah, well, I'm struck by a couple of things. One is just Ivan, the generosity of sharing this and the vulnerability around it. I think that one of the wishes I have for every single business leader is that they would be able to have this kind of conversation with either their partners or their teams. Because I think one of the things we see the most common is leaders think they have to hold it together. They don't want to share that they're having these internal and external thoughts, that this stuff is happening. And so I just think that, for everybody watching, that we look in the IEP methodology, we look at self-care as a leadership skill, and having the awareness to go, wow, I'm not actually doing okay right now. And the awareness of I'm actually withholding what's actually happening for me. And then Mariana, your ability to step into that and go, okay, like, let's look at how are we going to support this? The intention that I hear you both had around, okay, we're walking into a culture which is really committed to its misery. That's a short way of putting it, but we all know that. We know people and leaders, and it's not because one thing I always want to be really clear about, it's not because anybody's bad or they're lazy or they don't care. It's just they don't know how yet. And it's the habit. And so it can be so much easier just to stay in that place, because you don't know what you don't know until you're out of it. You start to feel better. So you both coming into it and going, okay, let's really be intentional about how we're going to shift this culture. We don't know how yet, but we know we got to take care of ourselves first in order to do that. I think that was really brilliant. Yeah, I think that those are the two main things that come up for me listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one more thing on the before side of your question. One day I remember driving up to the building and unable to let go of the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And literally all I could think about is when I walk in, I'm gonna hear that same problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna be hijacked right there in the lobby. And I just don't think I can walk in one more time.
Mm-hmm.
I was completely wiped out, burnt out. It was so dark. that was kind of the turning point, a huge turning point for realizing that I had to take even more accountability. And this company and this project is not going to be the end of me.
Yeah.
And I continued in that direction. I think I mean outcomes of what could have done would have been terrible. So that was that's from there to where we are now. We actually turned around the entire culture. We quadrupled the company, and in a very demanding aerospace business. We can talk a little bit more on how we did it, but the after side of things is pretty remarkable. The private equity seasoned buyer said that this is the best culture and team that we have ever acquired, and something that's unheard of, in the negotiations. They said, we need you for 6 months. We said, absolutely not. They said, well, I'm sorry, we cannot do the deal because of that. Maybe we can do it.
Right.
So,
Let me see.
so then we said, how about we countered with, how about 2 days a week? Because, you don't need us.
Yeah.
We are confident that you don't need us, but we'll give you 2 days a week just so for your comfort level and certainty. They said, okay, great, let's do that. In the third week, we were summoned to the boardroom and they said, you were right. You were right. Thank you so much. Enjoy your life. And, if something comes up, we'll call you. That was now 2.5 years ago. And we've talked to them twice in all that time. And that's the after.
That's beautiful.
Because so they thought they needed you guys for 6 months to keep the culture healthy and to keep things going, right? And then they realized 3 weeks later, oh wow, this is a sustainable, healthy organization that we actually don't need somebody to keep holding it together for us. I mean, I'm speechless about that. That's a really really big deal. That it just shows the depth of what you did in that organization to make sure that it could go without you, which is one of the things we're always looking to do as leaders, right? We want to work ourselves out of a job, so to speak, and leaving things so much better than we found them. So, wow.
Yeah. And that's especially in that sort of situation where there is such a change in leadership.
Yeah.
And the legacy that you both created in that culture was sustainable. I'd love to touch on just some of the attributes that you both noticed of that culture before and then that culture after. Ivan, you mentioned decentralized, or there was centralized knowledge, not sharing, lots of silos. You shared that some pressure, the draining, and then you also have shared how this newer culture was more sustainable. What are some of those other attributes that you were noticing before and after?
Resilient, innovative, cohesive, positive, refreshing, energizing.
Yeah, beautiful. Mariana, anything else you want to share?
I feel like people were more open-minded for any changes and any initiatives that were happening, because that was one of the attributes before, the closed-mindedness, but not necessarily because the people had that attribute themselves. It was the company culture. It was like widespread. So that this is how it is. We don't touch what works, and we don't need anything more, and we don't need expansion, and any of that. And when Ivan came on board, that was his vision. He realized that the business cannot absolutely grow in this way. It's just not sustainable. It kind of reached this cap, and in order for that business to grow more, you have to introduce something else. There has to be changes and everything. And so after that, and it's not like today and tomorrow, that movie Day After Tomorrow. It's not that. It's like day in and day out, consistent, as you said, and small actions, going in there, being consistent, 2 steps back, 1 forward, whatever. And then at the end of it, there is so the open-mindedness became the company-wise attribute, as well as inclusion, because before it was the new ideas were excluded, certain personalities were excluded, and in the manufacturing industry, that's very much the case. It's like, we know how it is, and who belongs where and how we do things. So afterwards, it was more, you couldn't really say, oh, this is the manufacturing business. This was a business that was open for innovation. It was open for inclusion. It was open for innovation. That's what I would say. The openness to that.
Beautifully put. Love it. Great. Anese, anything you want to share here?
Yeah, I just want to connect the dots, because one of the things that we always get feedback from people on is like, okay, well, what's the fun? And so that's nice. Yay, more innovation, more resiliency. People are happy. Woo, that's so good. But I just want to say it once and for all right here, financial impact of all this. So you had a beautiful exit. That was lovely. And what would you say the financial impact, and I'm not looking for numbers, but just for somebody who's listening to this, it goes, okay, that's great. That's they're still in that's the soft stuff. This doesn't really matter. What's the financial case for this?
Well, in order to have that kind of an exit, you must grow your revenue tremendously. So we quadrupled the revenue. In order to actually have a multiple on your profits that will actually create that really cool exit, you must really optimize and be efficient. So when you're looking to hit your targets on a monthly basis, trying to hit them alone is really hard. And I tried. I know why how hard it is, because, but when you're doing that with a team that is energized, that's wide-eyed, that's looking to learn, that is enthused, that is trying to hit your targets for their reasons, your probability of achieving all of your financial outcomes goes through the roof. If you have people leading right next to you that in that way, everything that you're there for is enabled. And so there's a reason that this conversation is called the currency of culture. This is definitely hardcore dollars in your bank account and in the back of your jeans.
Thank you for that. I think thank you for that. I know that we all know this. I know we know it because we swim in it. But I always appreciate when somebody who's actually using it is willing to back it up even more. I mean, I think when I think about the cost of that's saved just in, people collaborating more effectively, the innovation, the better products and services get created because people are focusing on the right things. They're not focusing on protecting themselves and, drama and all that good stuff, but they're actually focusing on doing great things for the company when they're feeling better. So their lost time decreases. They're actually healthier in the organization. Retention, that's another place that we see, when you're able to retain your people and you're not having constant turnover, that has humongous ripple effects. So thank you for thank you for that. And what's really interesting to me too, Ivan, is not only did you do it for your own company, but now you have been in the trenches doing this with others. So you were about to say something.
Yeah, I'm about to say you said retention. So retention, we just one of our clients who is doing commercial flooring and painting. We've been working with them now for 18-ish months. They came to us with the founder came to us and said, you know what, I'm going to shut this business down. You are our last call before I shut this business down. It's, I've been doing it for 40 years and, I don't think that, once I'm gone, I don't think this thing has a future. And I don't really think I could sell it because, who wants this? job and and all of this. And we said, hold on, let's talk about this a little bit before you do that. And so from that point to now, this company has tripled their profits, doubled their revenue, and created a culture simultaneously that is enabling the freedom to this founder. And now he has the option to sell this business, and he's very enthused in managing this business from his boat. And he's literally his whole vision of this. He has a successor now who is owning 20% of the business. It's a remarkable turnaround. And the cultural piece, the retention piece. This is a seasonal business. It's very hard to work on the winter. They're doing some flooring projects in the winter, but for 40 years, they would lose half of their people every year. So when spring comes, they would have to replace half of their staff. And guess what happened in 2023? 100% retention.
Oh,
Incredible.
100% retention.
oh my gosh. Be still my heart. That's fantastic.
100% retention. So if you think that IEP isn't gonna make your life easier and your vision enabled, you are missing something huge.
Wow. I'm so excited for that guy on his boat. I'm so happy for him. I mean, I'm so happy for him because there's probably any business leader watching this has probably had those moments at some point, whether it was their job because they're working for a huge organization or they're self-employed. Like we all have those moments where we go, "Oh my gosh!" And then to hear it get to the other side with 100% retention, and you're going to run run your company basically from a boat. That's not bad.
Yeah, incredible. Anese, I'd love to dive a little bit more into the people experience and different types of things that you might be looking at as a culture strategist when it comes to potential blind spots or, drained and neglected leadership pipelines, recruitment or retention, things like that. How does the IEP method and culture play into dynamics around those things?
Well, I'm always, thank you for the question. I'm always looking at this like in the, on the ground with the people in the moment. And I'm also looking at from an organizational standpoint, if we take a step back. So I'll take a step back first. So, a little bit tied to what we were talking about earlier with a vision is basically just an intention of the greatest kind. One of the things that we always want companies and our executive teams to do is to take a step back and to really look at very intentionally, what is the kind of culture that we actually want to create? Who do we want to be as an organization? Who do we want to be as a leadership team? And I think one of the biggest blind spots that I see there, and this ties to individual as well, is just the fact that people are moving so quickly and they're in react mode and they're overloaded and they're taking on a ton and they're operating in force because, I mean, let's face it, like our world is not slowing down. It's not slowing down. Things get more and more complex. And so I think that the biggest blind spot is getting people to just stop, take a step back, and take that time to really very intentionally look at who they're going to become as an organization. And then when they get clear on what they want to become and what they want to stand for real, then they can actually start to create a strategy around, how they're going to grow, how they're going to build their culture and whatnot. So that's on the, I can go more into it, Jenny. If there's more things I'm missing about the organizational side, then please flag me. But when I look at individuals and on teams, some of the biggest blind spots we see, it's related. People are moving so quickly. They're so busy. They're not taking the time to think about, okay, what is my intention and what's the impact I'm actually having? And so what happens is you have leadership teams and workforce that you've got a lot of indirect engagement, so talking behind each other's back, not addressing problems head on, psychological safety gets compromised. People don't actually feel safe to take the risks that are required for innovation. People actually don't want to lead. One of the things we really saw last year was this new thing. We've been doing this work for a very long time. And there was this new level of awareness that we started to have where new leaders that are growing in companies were like, I actually am not interested in stepping into a leadership position because the way that they're leading, I'm not inspired by that. I'm not doing it. And I'm actually looking for my next gig. Huge, like huge. The other thing is the workforce that is coming up, the next generation of leaders, they're not tolerating bad, unhuman leadership anymore. So some of the stuff that we used to do where we could push really fast and grind people to the grindstone and, you know, not be paying attention to the human side of it and the IEP side of it, that's actually not going to be tolerated anymore. That's old. So when we look at the future of work, we got to start looking at, okay, it's that, let's take a step back, go slow to go fast, and really start to see how are we setting up our future leaders so that they're inspired to lead? How are we investing in them? How are we making sure that our leadership pipelines are full? I think so many companies that we've, you know, come in contact with, especially over this last year, this last 24 months, their leadership pipelines are not like they're not and then what's ending up happening is they end up putting more and more pressure on the high performers to pick up the load, and then those high performers are getting empathy and compassion fatigue, and they're getting exhausted and they're burning out. And so now you've just got an organization that starts to kind of blech, right? So that's a lot that I just said in that, but I think honestly the biggest blind spot is being aware that I am responsible for the energy that I bring to the table. I am responsible for being intentional about the impact I want to create, whether I am growing another leader or I am that leader. I'm responsible for that. And then what do I need to do to support myself so I can take a step back and ensure that I'm having the impact I want to have, and then I'm being intentional, and then I have the right energy. So is that?
Yeah, it was beautifully put. And I think it really speaks to this inside out approach of the methodology, in that there is the micro and the macro of making sure that you're taking care of yourself and making sure that you're operating out of a way that is not only in alignment, but is sustainable. Yeah. And then having that be on the macro level of, this is the way that we're going to operate as an organization. And I believe, Mariana, we were chatting about this phenomenon that happens for high performers, where they are showing up and performing really, really well and being a team player, and start to become really drained because of that. And so how do you model the methodology for yourself, and how do you model it? How do you help others who are in that sort of situation, especially if they're a business owner or a leader that you're working with? How do you help them to step into that next level of awareness for themselves?
Well, it takes extra hard work and awareness for me because I'm naturally oriented outwards and to help others and to kind of put myself in the back. And I've noticed over the years that the more, and especially, you know, as a mother of, you know, 2 boys, and then, you know, you work and you have a partner and everything, and it's like all about the others. And then you kind of forget yourself. And yes, it can take a long time to remember yourself because you're naturally, that's your genius, right? You're wired to help others. And then if you forget yourself and you all of a sudden feeling burnt out and drained out, and the worst thing is when you start resenting everybody that you love and support and care for and all of that you went too far. You know, luckily it didn't happen for me like too many times, but I did catch myself. And that's the having that point of awareness where you are kind of going into and pulling back. And, you know, for some people it's we have that awareness, and other people might not as well. And that's one of the things that in the company, when you are a leader, whether you own the company or you're a top level executive or something like that, and if you know yourself that you are not as aware of your presence as maybe you should be, but you know that something is missing and that something needs to be transformed, I would seek because there's always, depending on the size of your team, there's always 1 or 2 or 5 people in your organization that are very sensitive to their own presence and the presence of everybody else around them. I would seek their feedback and their, kind of like you walk into the meeting and then you see that one person is kind of sitting there wide-eyed because they're feeling the energy of the room. And they know that something is not right, but people are not saying anything, right? So seeking feedback from that person who does have awareness that they can tell you, hey, we need to be more attentive to this, and you need to show up in a different way, and be open for that feedback as well. Because for what I learned over the years, and I'm still learning, is that I need to open myself up to Ivan's feedback when he sees me, because he always jokes that, she's in the 5th gear. And when she's in the 5th gear, like, just move away, because she will run you, like she will plow, because I'm like in that, and opening myself to that feedback and saying, hey, you kind of want to slow down. Okay, I got it. I need to slow down. I think that is the biggest awareness, and the biggest piece of, if I was going to advise somebody, is that look around the people around you who you love and trust. And when they tell you that there has to be more awareness, just listen in that moment. There's no need to question.
Oh, so such great wisdom. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
And you're speaking to something which is so key in all of this, which is you're speaking to creating the space and the environment where it's safe for people to give you that feedback. So, just as a little, like, a side note, creating agreements as a team when things are going well at the very beginning, creating agreements as a team about being able to give that kind of feedback and have that be safe and have it be received as a gift. I think that's one of the most important things we can do, because otherwise, if you're lucky, your people will give you feedback. If you're lucky. If you're not lucky, they're going to hold on to it for a long time. They'll just start to internalize it, and then it's going to start to, like, leak out in different ways. So I think that's super important. The other thing, it's like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So leading from a place of resentment, and again, I think all of us have hit different forms of that in our lifetime, but it's like leading from a place of a resentment. It's like when we fly the plane and they say, put your oxygen mask on yourself first, even before your baby, because if you're passed out or worse, you can't support anybody. It's the same thing with self-care and leadership.
Yeah, I would love to add just the way the world works and operates.
Yeah.
Givers' reward for giving is resentment and drain. So what I'm trying to say is that as the giver, you need to have some awareness, and this is what we do with up and coming next generation of leaders when we are helping organizations and teams. We are really reminding them that this is a long game, and we try to align them with, you must take care of yourself, because people get reinforced for being that giver. Oh my God, you're amazing, thank you so much. But then the load just keeps on piling on beyond your capacity, and so you're torn inside, like, I want to keep giving, but I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. So you have to really be aware of that, and normalizing the journey, and sharing some stories about how we've overcome that. We have a unique perspective because we were both the successor in one stage, so we know what it feels like to take over a company, and to take over the leadership position for someone who was very influential, stepping into really big shoes. But then when we really grew the company a lot, then we became the constraint. So we had to then let go and give and support the next generation. So we know how the next generation feels. So we're kind of the middle, able to speak to both sides. And when we work with organizations, we can normalize the conversation. Here's what he's feeling. Here's what's happening for her as a leader. Here's the pressure that's experienced over here. here's where you are in your position. Here's how you can align yourself to the best contribution of your life and make this journey here in this organization the best development ground for you, whether they are worthy of you or not.
Mm.
And eventually, guess what? If you are the best version of yourself with your top potential, you're going to be great. Whether this organization catches on the way you wish it would catch on, or you're going to move on with your awesome self to some amazing other positive culture workplace. This is what's in it for you. What's in it for you is that you manage your energy when you walk in, that you make your amazing contribution during your workday, and then you go home as well energized after, so that you can meet your family in that way. So that's what's in it for you. And within the organization could be all kinds of madness. I know from experience. So you could have impossible situations inside, but if you look at it from a good frame, it could all help you. That impossible situation can end up on your resume, up leveling you maybe 3 or 4 different levels, because you've tackled that and you've won the impossible task, and or you tackled it. And that's huge on your resume. In your next interview, when you tell people that, guess what? They're going to be like, whoa, I want you. I mean,
Bring it on.
when can you
Yeah.
start? When can you start? That's what's in it for you.
Yeah. Beautifully put. And I love this theme that we're creating here of being true to who you are as an authentic leader. We're not trying to suggest that you need to change who you are, but being accountable for your energy, being accountable for the way that you show up with other people, looking outside of yourself for that feedback and being open to it and curious and practicing that non-judgment and just paying that forward, even though in our mind, it might feel like that's going to take longer to pause and take those steps and to do that intentional action. In the long run, it's so much more sustainable. And it really is creating a more positive ripple effect in the world, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. So I love all of this conversation that we are inspiring here today. There's one more question that we want to ask of Mariana and Ivan while we're here with you today. You have such a unique perspective, being able to interact with companies who are preparing to take the next step. How do you talk about the IEP method and the energy accountability to like a board of directors or an investor? What's the language that you're using? How are you talking about it so that they understand there is actual currency impact by being intentional about your culture?
In order of usage of the intentional energetic presence, we talk about presence the most. Presence is not as it's easier to get through the filters. Okay, once we're past the first defense mechanisms,
Yeah.
we then start talking about intention, and then energy is a maybe, but we've already the Trojan horse has already entered the room, and it's already there. So that's kind of how we do it. A lot of times we do a lot of different things. Our systemic approach is very it's literally tapping into the invisible dynamics and hidden patterns that are present in organizations. We have 2 brands for this reason. Our Jumpstart Your Exit brand is the brand above the surface of the water on the iceberg, and the Systemic Approach Institute is below the surface of the water on the iceberg. And so we do comparatively much less talking and much more utilization of it, and that's kind of how we get into on a longer engagement with a client. Then we have him read the Contagious Culture and Contagious You, and once they have been converted, if you would, once they can see the value, once they have enough openness, then we get into some very much deeper discussions and things. You know, how do we start with the presence conversation? It's and what would be the value for people like this that are working in boardrooms? And you know, from our perspective, each board room meeting has an energetic thermostat, if you would. It has a vibe, and it has a set of things that are okay and the things that are not okay. And so having the awareness when you walk in, and an intention to recognize those cues, also not to make abrupt ventures outside of those norms, to kind of open your elbow room slowly, and you know, all of those things are very, very important. The same applies with the investor conversations, with buyers and sellers, and getting them into a room, and you know, all of these things, that all applies. You must be aware of your own energy, and you must be aware of other people's energy. And when I talk to them about it, is just a kind of having the sense of what's happening, that you can then gradually guide and lead out of.
Respond to. Beautiful. Yeah. Leading with presence makes sense in all forms. Love it. Anything else you want to share, Mariana?
Well, I will say, you know, one of my attributes, it's not patience. However, what I've learned in working with others, and even working with our people, you know, in a previous company, is that you really, as a leader and as a connoisseur of, you know, energetic presence, and, you know, and all of that, you really have to be patient and wait for the opportune moment in which to present a transformational tool that is intangible. Because, you know, as you talked about it earlier, Anese, on the, you know, what's the return on investment? You know, when am I going to get my money's back, you know, worth of, you know, investing into culture? Guess what?
Yeah.
So having patience to recognize in which moment you say, there is a method for that. Because if you come in and you say, you know, your culture needs transformation, you're showing up as a, you know, bull in the, you know, China shop and something, nobody's going to like that. They're going to then get defensive. But if they are, as clients, showing you and telling you, you know, meeting after meeting, that, you know, there's certain impact that they're creating with their team and that they don't like, you know, when the situation is ripe, if you will, presenting how to solve what they're experiencing, it's going to be like there will be no defensive wall that will meet your suggestion.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully put. Anese, how would you like to close up your thoughts for today?
Oh, so many good. I feel like we could geek out on this for hours and hours.
We should definitely schedule a part two.
Do a part two. Yeah. Well, I just think, you know, to your point that you just shared, Mariana, I think it's so important to be aware of like, when is the right time and how do you enter that conversation? Because, you know, one of the ways we found really helpful is using the 5 magic questions in the IEP work. You know, so the 5 magic questions are: are you having the impact you want to have? Do you feel the way you want to feel? Do people follow you because they want to or because they have to? Are you living in alignment with your core values? And what is the culture you're creating? And so those 5 quick questions can also be a very gentle way to start to get a team or another leader to see like, maybe there is something in here for me to look at differently. We find them very gentle, because the worst thing you can do, to your point, Mariana, is go in and be like, okay, your energy is really bad and we got to fix this thing right now. And we're going to have this return on investment in the next week. And we're going to do a 90-minute webinar and we're going to be done with it. Like, it just doesn't work. And so you want to be intentional about the way you're offering the work. And the other piece is, if you're offering the work, and you two are such beautiful examples of this, but if you're talking about intentional energetic presence and you're doing truly transformative work with leaders and organizations, you want to make sure that you're also actively working on your IEP, because presence, it's contagious, but people are also going to sense if there's some incongruency there. So that's another really important piece of where I think you two have been so brilliant and so successful in what you've been doing with all these different organizations, is that the way that you both show up is with such clean energy, and you're constantly doing your work, and you have your awareness, and you're asking for support where needed. And that actually, to me, is what creates the foundation to help build sustainable culture change, where you can leave 3 weeks later, Ivan, instead of 6.
Yeah.
I think that's really special.
Yeah. Thanks for reflecting on that, Anese.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to start to close down our space for today. This has been such a rich conversation. I know I've personally gotten a lot out of it. And Mariana and Ivan, it's been so delightful to get to know you better through this conversation. I can certainly understand why business owners and partners are attracted to working with you. You bring a lot of care and compassion and thoughtfulness into the way that you're approaching this conversation. And I'm sure that that translates into the work that you do with others as well. So thanks for sharing part of that with us today. And Anese, thank you as always for offering your perspectives and bringing this conversation together. This has been just really, really valuable. So deep bow to all of you. So if you'd like to learn more or connect with our panelists today, we'll be sharing some links for them so that you can learn more about their companies. And remember that our recording today is going to be available to everybody who registered. We'll also post it on our blog so that you can look at it later if you'd like to refer back to this or share it with somebody you wish was listening today. And just one thing to close, at ACI, we offer a variety of pathways for you to be able to learn how to support your company or your leadership through the IEP methodology. We offer different training pathways. Anese offers experiential keynotes. We have membership offerings. So if you'd like to learn more and stay connected, please check out our website, activechoices.com, or you can schedule a connection call where we can explore opportunities together. You can go to activechoices.com/contact. So thanks again to everyone, and we hope to see you in our next executive session. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.